Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us here on SA Today. With the World Diabetes Day taking place today, with so many countries recently announcing that they are back in lockdown today, we are talking about the link between diabetes and COVID-19 and what you can do if you have type 2 diabetes. Bridget McNulty is a type 1 diabetic and co-founder of Sweet Life Diabetes Community, SA's largest online diabetes community, and she joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Bridget. Thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Thank you for having me. Happy World Diabetes Day.
Oh, yeah, right. I'd like to ask you, in terms of the fact that we've been in the midst of COVID-19 and already diabetes is a disease that people don't necessarily, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost as though people don't necessarily take diabetes too seriously as they should. And this is a disease that actually does kill many people. Why is it that people are not taking diabetes seriously? I suppose in terms of testing as well, whether one has diabetes or not, and what you've noted too as we've been in the midst of COVID-19 and then also having to deal with diabetes.
So it's one of my big questions is why people don't take diabetes more seriously. Because if we look at the stats, it's the one thing all South Africans should be taking the most seriously. So diabetes kills more people than TB, HIV and malaria combined in South Africa. In 2016, Stats SA told us that it is the #1 killer of women in South Africa. And that wasn't front page news. And the most terrifying or hopeful, depending on your perspective, part of this is that type 2 diabetes is not a lethal condition. It's a completely manageable condition. You can manage it with diet and lifestyle, medication if necessary. If you catch it early enough, it's actually a completely reversible condition. So what we're seeing is that there are all these people dying from a condition that shouldn't be killing anyone at all. The trouble is that everyone's being diagnosed too late. So they're only going to the doctor or the clinic or the hospital when they are experiencing the severe complications of uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, and that's blindness, amputation, kidney failure, heart disease. Again, none of this is necessary, but if you don't know you have type 2 diabetes, then it's very difficult to control your blood sugar. And so what we're really encouraging everyone to do is to understand what the risk factors are of type 2 diabetes. And if we can understand those, then you'll know if you need to be having a diabetes screening every year.
Bridget,
we would like everyone to have a diabetes screening every year.
Yeah, Bridget, maybe then you can talk to us then about those risk factors and possibly maybe when one should start to be concerned. I mean, I thought at some point I had it and I went for a check and they said it was all clear, which I was surprised about because it is something that is in the family. But yeah, what are the signs, I suppose the signs and symptoms before it's too late, I suppose?
Exactly. So we've actually put together a 60-second video of cute pets playing that tells you the risk factors as you go, because we're trying to make it as shareable and fun as possible to know this information. So you could find that at sweetlife.org.za, that's our website. Yeah. But in general, anyone who's over 45 years old should be having an annual diabetes screening. And a diabetes screening is so simple. It takes less than 5 minutes. It's a finger prick blood test. During November, it's often free. KICS clinics are offering the screening for free. Many of the local pharmacies do as well. And you'll know your results straight away. So anyone over 45 years old should have an annual diabetes screening. It's like HIV. We all know our HIV status. We should all know our diabetes status. If you are obese or overweight, that's a very strong risk factor. If you have a family history of diabetes, if you have a history of heart disease, if you've had gestational diabetes or a baby over 4 kilograms, if you have high blood pressure, there are kind of a bouquet of conditions that put you at a greater risk. And that's why if this sounds familiar to you at all, then just go and have a diabetes screening. And again, if you find out early enough, it's completely manageable. You can even reverse it by losing weight if necessary, changing your diet and exercising. Otherwise, it's very manageable. Even if it isn't reversible, it's still very manageable. Diabetes should not be killing anyone.
Yeah. Bridget, I just want to raise something with you, which I'm sure you've also been aware of in your research of diabetes. But, you look at places like townships. I won't say rural areas, because rural areas, they generally would be growing their own food and eating what's called organic in any case. But if you look at the townships, for example, it's so easy to access fast food, to to access slop chips, to access what we call makwenya, you know, fat cakes, to access really, God does. It's so easy to access this this food that really causes things like diabetes. And you know, you'll never really find a food truck or someone selling, you know, salads or something like that. And I would imagine in that case that diabetes is quite rife in areas like that. What kind of I suppose eating education, if I can put it that way, for lack of better terminology, can one sort of give in areas like that, to say, you know, what you're eating, ultimately, as cheap as it is, or you know, as easily accessible as it is, it's harming you, it's killing you. How do we, you know, give? I know you're doing something online, but not everybody has access to your online community. How do we kind of, you know, give those messages? I mean, this platform, we are doing that, obviously, but really, this is something that is quite important and close to my heart, actually.
Absolutely, that's a great question. We've recently put together a food guide, a diabetes food guide, that's printed copies that we're hoping to distribute through the National Department of Health in the public clinics next year, that speaks exactly to this. It tells you which food to choose and how much what your portion size should be, because that's the other big problem, right? Is that it's no good if you're eating something that's technically healthy, but you're eating 4 times as much as you should be eating.
Yeah.
In general, the simplest and clearest advice you can give is that if you look at your plate, half of your plate should have green leafy vegetables, and then the other half should be divided into a quarter of a portion of good quality protein. So that's some like chicken, fish, eggs, meat, but not fatty meat. And then a quarter should be good quality starch or carb, and that would be whole grains or something like sweet potato, butternut, that sort of thing. The argument about it being cheap is a good argument if you look at it quickly, but not a good argument if you look at it deeply, because fast food is very tasty, that's true.
Yeah.
But if you add up all the chips, all the cookies, all the fast food you're buying on the side of the road, all the fizzy drinks, all the sweets, all the ice cream stuff, if you could just take that money. So what we're suggesting is, and we know it's hard, but if you stop eating that kind of junk food and spend that money on fruit and vegetables, it's completely possible. So we're not saying add fresh food to what you're eating. We're saying use that money you were spending on the stuff that you know is bad for you and that you know is bad for your kids and doesn't make you feel well, and use that money on the healthy food instead. What I am going to say is it's really hard in the beginning. It takes between 3 and 7 days for your taste buds to change. And in the beginning, you're desperate for something sweet. Yeah. And water tastes like nothing. And all you want is like a chocolate after dinner or a donut on your way home after work or whatever it is that you're used to having. But if you can just stick with it for 7 days, then your taste buds change, and all of a sudden the healthy food, which is actually delicious, starts tasting delicious again.
Yeah.
You just have to stick with it.
All right, Bridget, unfortunately we're out of time. I would have loved to chat further with you. Thank you so very much for giving us your time, and we'll certainly pick up this conversation at some point again. And thanks indeed for the online community you've started for this sort of awareness. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's Bridget McNulty, co-founder of Sweet Life Diabetes Community, SA's largest online diabetes community. And certainly you should take a look if you are worried that you might have, or in fact you have diabetes. Lots of information there for you.